Hey guys, Scott here, and today I wanted to talk to you about Lothric's Holy Sword, which I feel is kind of underused and underrated. It's still a pretty good weapon, and all of the utility and all the usefulness comes from the weapon art, but the main thing that deters people from using it is the damage. People think the damage is really bad, and compared to most straight swords, it is actually pretty bad. If you compare it to like the longsword at 4040, it's like 428 AR with a longsword compared to Lothric's Holy Sword, which has like 367 at 4040. It is significantly less damage. This translates to about 40 less damage per hit when you're actually fighting players, but you need to actually think about what 40 less damage a hit means. And it seems like a lot, but if you actually do the math, like the average health that a player will have in an SL120 arena duel is about 1400, because that is what you have with 40 Vigor, Life Ring plus 3, and Ring of Favor. This is using a meta setup too. That's like on the high end. So 1400 health. Now if you divide 1400 by, the average damage you do with a longsword, which is like, 220 to 240, we'll just put 230 because that's a good average depending on armor. That's about 6.08. But the thing is, the 0.08, you can't attack somebody 0.08 times. You can only attack them a full time. So all that number just rounds up to 7. So it would take about 7 slashes to actually kill somebody with a regular longsword, assuming they had maximum, meta set up in the arena. Now, if we think about Lothric's Holy Sword and the actual damage it does closer to maybe 180 damage on average, which is, significantly lower. But let's do the math. It's 1400 divided by 180, and that is 7.7. which rounds up to 8. So we have the 6.1, which rounds up to 7, and the 7.7, which rounds up to 8. So really, even though it's a lot less damage, it's only one more hit to kill the guy, which is not asking that much, and even numbers are better than odd numbers because of 2-hit combos. So it's really not that big of a deal. Like, it's not that big of a difference. And the amount of extra chip damage you get with Lothric's Holy Light, I feel like it makes up for it. Now, obviously, in a trading scenario, you're not going to win, but you have to play smarter with it, and I think that's where this weapon actually really shines. Other than the damage, Lothric's Holy Sword is actually really good. The length is actually, it's the same length as the Dark Sword. People always attribute the Dark Sword as like the longest thing, but it's not. Goddard's is longer. This is the same length or longer. It's hard to tell. It's like pixel, so it's very, very close. But Lothric's is actually a lot longer than people think. You can do the R1, R2 roll catch very reliably with this thing. As long as you half charge the R2, it'll definitely work. But obviously, the best part about this is Lothric's Holy Light. That is the weapon art, which basically shoots out a very quick little bolt of energy that does roughly a regular R1 damage. But the reason why it's so good, especially in today, how the meta is kind of changing a bit, it's moving towards, poise and, hyper armor and great swords and things like that. Obviously, I still think quick weapons are the best overall, but you're seeing more and more great swords and uses of poise in the arena, which is cool. Things are changing. There's also things like, pyromancers are starting to be more prevalent. There's like fire surge ships, things like that. So this is why having an attack that you can use out of range of all of these things is so good. This is why having an offhand crossbow is really good as well, because it kind of functions in the same way. So if you have a guy attacking with a greatsword, multiple times in a row, he's got, basically you can't stagger him out of that. You can just sit at a range and just use Lothric's Holy Light on them. It makes it so they can't, chain R1s together and keep that hyper armor up anymore. Also, if someone's trying to cast a spell at you, you can interrupt it. If they're fire surging, you can hit them in the face. It's like, it answers a lot of problems that are currently arising in the arena right now, which is really good. And additionally, with a weapon art shield, you can basically control your opponent's aggression by constantly dancing into the glowy, stance for the actual Holy Light attack. You can basically control where they're going to go. If they just stand still, you can probably just hit them with the weapon art. Now, you can reaction dodge it, so if you're just standing still and your opponent's standing still and you just charge the weapon art, they're probably going to dodge it because, it's quick, but it's not that quick to where they can't react to it. But the way you would use it actually well is just by turning it on and off and seeing how they react. If they roll into you, cancel it and just start R1 spamming because they just rolled into a straight sword. That's awesome. If they stay more passive, then I guess they can backpedal all they want. You're not going to lose then. So it's kind of it's not a win-win. It's a win-draw. So they're never actually going to attack you, which is fine. And the other options are they try, coming in with like a hyper armor attack where you can just roll out of range and then, do another Holy Light to poke them. It's really good at controlling what your opponent does, and it's good for changing your timings up. It's just really it's a really good answer to a lot of things that people are seeing in the arena right now. You know, poking people out of range is a bit different from how you would play normally with a straight sword, like with a weapon art shield. Because normally with a straight sword or with a weapon art shield, you would be doing the stance R2, which gives you hyper armor, and you can trade attacks that way. This is a different type of playstyle where you stay out of range and chip away at them as they're missing their attacks. And honestly, I kind of like that playstyle more. I like that kind of hit and run chip style as they're missing their attacks. I think that's more fun than just running up and trading with people until one of you dies. So, yeah, I would say give Lothric's Holy Sword a go if you haven't already. Don't let the low damage dissuade you. The utility of using a weapon art shield and actually using the weapon art very frequently is pretty good. And there are still a lot of things people don't really expect with it. For example, hell, I didn't even realize this until, a couple of days ago. The L2R1, which is it's the guard break uppercut, it doesn't combo, but the animation chains into an R2, the Holy Light. So if you miss an L2R1, you can immediately chain that into a Holy Light, and a lot of people don't expect it. And this weapon is about low damage additional, repeated hits for chipping them away. And I kind of like that. I like the whole playstyle that it brings. It lets you punish them using hyper armor or spells or anything ranged very, very well. And it's just, I don't know, it's really fun to use, and I've been messing with it a lot, and I've been having a lot of success with it. So hopefully you can give it a try too, because it's a pretty fun weapon to use. So try it out, guys. All right, that's it for me. Take it easy. Have a good one.